Right-e-o. Here we go. Exercise number 1 of the day on this. Like I said, this is my second pull day of the week. So I do a pull on a Monday, which is mainly back focused, and my second pull day of the week is a little bit more hamstrings and back focused. So I start this day with this new tech laying hamstring curl. Real big fan of this hamstring curl. Really blessed to have the ability to utilize some new tech equipment at my gym. And as you can see here, just a big emphasis on that contraction of the hamstring. That is one thing I have found has benefited me massively in all my weaker body parts this off season, is just the ability to control the weight through all the ranges and having a slight pause before shifting momentum, right? Before changing direction of the lift. So as you can see here, every time I do either a hamstring curl or a back movement, I do focus a little bit on a pause in either the contraction or the stretch, if not both. And that's a big thing I tend to focus on, especially in a hamstring curl. I just found that the contraction itself, especially again in a hamstring curl that's a laying hamstring curl where we have the ability to get that hamstring fully shortened, I do put a lot of emphasis on that contraction. And again, it's one thing I have found has allowed me to actually move the weight with my hamstrings a lot more accurately this off season. But 2, the contraction itself just feels like my hamstrings are gonna tear apart, and I love that feeling. So 2 sets here, as you can see, both within like the 8 to 12 rep range. I'm not too focused on rep ranges anymore, something I've moved away from a little bit. I know kind of where I want to fall. If I fall one short or one above, it's okay. So 2 sets here to start the session off, and usually this would be followed by a hip hinge, but as you'll see, I now do my hip hinges last on this day, and just do the 2 sets of hamstring curls here. I do 2 sets on the Monday. This session's on a Thursday, so 2 sets Monday, 2 sets Thursday, and then I do four sets on Saturday, and obviously I do a hip hinge on this day. So it's about 8 to 9 sets split across the week. Before I move on to, as you can see here, to my first back movement of the day. Usually this would be the second back movement, but again, you'll see my first back movement was the machine I needed was being used, so, and I didn't want to wait, and I didn't have time to wait, so I don't mind shifting the exercise order around a little bit. It doesn't really affect me too much. Couple of notes on this machine here. First of all, pronated, thinking about bringing those arms away from the body massively, and using that pad, right? The pad, any chest supported row, the pad is your best friend. I'm really trying to think about just letting my scapulars move around that pad as freely as they possibly can, and always trying to keep my chest on that pad at all times. The one thing I am focusing on when I'm pulling backwards is, instead of pulling, I am thinking about dragging myself into that pad, right? And utilizing it as, again, as I say, as a reference. The other noticeable thing is trying to keep that spine as neutral as possible. The one thing you'll see right here at the end is I do try to squeeze as much out of these exercises as I can. So I will add in that last little bit of a jig to get the last little bit out of this row, but I am still getting a noticeable amount of stretch in the last 2 to 3 reps there, even if I'm not able to fully shorten the movement itself. So again, 2 sets here, nothing too crazy. I'm a big fan of this machine. The only problem with this machine, and in particular, is the stack. Once it gets past 85 kilo, it sticks. So I'm currently using 85 kilos as like my maximum weight, because as soon as you go above that, it sticks, and the weight goes from like 85 to weighing like 185. It feels like 185, right? So you can't really use the stack past 85. So I've kind of maxed that out right now, and that's where I'm at. So 2 sets here. Again, big focus on just trying to stop in that stretching position. Again, see, I pause there. I make sure I pause nicely. I bring those elbows out when I'm rowing. Big contraction, scapular retraction, all that good stuff. just really focusing on the scapula more than anything. And you also, as you can just see from my calves activating a little bit here, is using my feet as driving forces, right? Making sure that I'm stable through the ground when I am doing these exercises, not letting the whole brute force of the machine be on my sternum and on my chest. So that's the first back exercise of the day. Before I moved on to here, which I don't know what people call these anymore. I just call it a single arm vertical lat pull down, elbow close to the body, right? I know some people call it iliac and all this bullshit. I just get confused with all these names at the end of the day. But this is what I would usually start this session with. Some single arm work. Another key factor to me bringing my back up this year has been more single arm work, and especially movements like this, the single arm vertical and the single arm horizontal. Big emphasis on the stretch and big emphasis on the contraction. As you can see, I pause in both ranges. I like to make sure there's a noticeable pause before initiating the movement. I try to eliminate any inertia that there might be. So again, I know I standardize that form, okay, not to get too deep into it. I'd standardize the form on exercises and body parts that I have struggled with in the past, i.e. back, hamstrings and biceps. I standardize the form so when I know that I'm progressing, so when I add weight and or reps, I know that I am adding real weight and or reps, not just making the movement easier by cheating through the range of motion, or cheating by making the actual movement easier in any type of ways, right? So if I pause at the top and I pause at the bottom, that standardizes things, okay, and make sure that every time I progress now and I add a little bit more weight, I still have those. As soon as I start noticing myself speeding things up, I have not earned the right to utilize that weight, in my opinion, so I will strip things back. And one thing, again, that I will continue to reiterate is, although I am focusing on progress, I am not focusing on trying to get as strong as I can. I'm not trying to focus on numbers. As soon as you get too focused on those numbers, that's when I have seen a massive decline in the efficiency and accuracy in people's training performance. We all become victim of it. So I don't logbook anymore. I have a really good idea of what I need to do. All I do is go to the gym, train my balls off I know how much volume I'm going to do. The 2 sets I do here on both arms, I do to a nice amount of reps, so between, again, 8 and 12, and I take it to failure. If I do that week after week, where the 1 week I get 8 reps, the next I get 9, and the next I get 10, but then I go back to 9 the week after that, it's okay. As long as across the board I am steadily increasing and progressing, I'm going to improve, I'm going to grow, I'm going, yeah, okay. The other noticeable thing you might notice here is I do my left arm first, because that is my weaker arm. And then I actually go straight into my right arm. That's not something I would generally do, but what I've noticed in these movements in particular is, as my right arm is my dominant arm, I have the ability to pretty much match whatever I do on my left arm, even if I've just gone straight into the set and I'm lacking a little bit of oxygen within the muscle. I still have the ability to progress that set. So it saves a little bit of time, as opposed to, like, you know, warming up on both arms, taking a minute or two between both arms, and then eventually doing your top set, because that can require quite a lot of time sometimes. I just speed things up a little bit more, and that's something I've noticed in my own training. Usually I would advise taking at least a minute and a half minimum between single body parts, left arm, right arm, left leg, right leg, whatever it may be, to make sure that you are not going into that second set and you are limited by lack of blood oxygen. So again, 2 sets here. You get big focus, stopping at the top, stopping at the bottom, really driving elbow into the floor, right? We're not pulling back, I'm not pulling into my trap. As you can see by the path of my elbow, I'm trying to drive that into my hip as much as I possibly can. And when that arm is coming up, I'm not just thinking up, I'm almost thinking about extending my elbow, right? I'm not thinking just letting things come up and bring my shoulder up with it. I'm allowing my elbow to essentially just extend, and then as soon as I pull, I break through the elbow first. I don't pull towards my body. Break through the elbow, lead through the elbow, tuck that elbow into the hip / top of your thigh. Stay hydrated. Again, 2 sets here. I currently do about 14, 15 sets of back work across 2 sessions. It used to be split across 3. But my Saturday session now is just hamstrings, biceps with 2 quad sets. So we reduced my back frequency, or I've reduced my back frequency a little bit more. Next up, I actually go on to biceps. So we've done 2 back movements. Sorry, we've done 1 hamstring movement, 2 back movements. Then I go to biceps. So the reason I do this, it's my only bicep exercise of the day, and I want to hit it when I am somewhat fresh. Whereas if I hit these towards the end of my session, with biceps being a priority for me right now, I do run into a little bit of fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, lack of concentration, etc. So the best way I found of doing it is hitting it like at that midpoint, if not starting my session with it, which again, my Saturday session, I start the session with biceps. One noticeable thing seems to be my word of choice today, by the way. But another thing to note, I would say, is I used to be against doing any kind of bicep work before pulling, because I used to find it used to take away from my pulling. But as of late, it has not been the case, and I have found quite a significant improvement in my biceps, which I don't think is a coincidence. Also, you know, I am, again, need to note, I am training bicep 3 times a week. Again, Monday I do 2 exercises, 2 sets each. This session I do 3 sets of this lay-in incline curl. Why I do it laying, the typical axial fatigue. More of that, it's just it allows me to be a bit more stable. Doesn't allow my midsection doesn't come into the equation so much. Whereas when you do it standard on a cable, you can find that midsection starts to take over a little bit and you start swinging. Whereas that feels a bit more stable, feels more accurate on my biceps. When I can be a bit more accurate on body parts that I struggle with, I have found a bigger improvement, more development on them. The last back movement of the day is this high to low chest supported row. I don't know how people are so strong on it. I do know a lot of people cut the range of motion on this machine massively. I am a big fan of trying to get the absolute most out of it in every kind of way. As you can see, I pause at the top and I pause at the bottom. Stretch those traps out as much as I possibly can, and really think of driving those elbows up nice and high into that shrugging motion, right? That I'm trying to get that upper trap firing as much as I can. So 2 sets here, again, big focus on execution, as you can see in everything I do with back. I used to be a very heavy lifter. I still lift heavy, but my form and execution has improved massively. And I know now that I am moving the weight with the intended muscle. I am moving the weight with my back, and I don't think it's a coincidence with how much my back has improved as of late with what I've been doing. So again, 2 sets here before moving on to the RDL, the hip hinge. And this is a movement that, if you do not know, I have struggled with massively over the last 6 years or so, just through injury. I used to pull 240 for sets of 7, sets of 8. And one day back went pop, and ever since then I've had an forever weakness there in terms of an injury that now and again just relapses. It doesn't matter how much I take care of it or don't take care of it, it kind of happens when it wants to happen. It doesn't matter if I'm hip hinging or picking up someone off the floor or doing a hamstring curl, it will go when it wants. So I have to be preventative and just like have to stay on top of things. So I do these last now. And as you can see, time under tension is a big thing for me here. This set alone, I think it lasts like over a minute. Just 60 kilos aside, I do it last. I'm fatigued, I'm tired, I can't pull as much as I usually can. 60 kilos aside for me here, with this like 3 second eccentric plus like a 2.5 second eccentric in the whole. Look, if you see, I count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to tax my back, hamstrings and glutes as much as I possibly can with as least load as possible. Yes, I can go lighter, but I'll be there for 2 to 3 working days. I don't want to do that. I can't remember how many reps this is, but as you can see, I just try to remain in control of it. I don't speed the reps up. I don't slow the reps down. I just stay in control. And the other thing to see and note, again, I do not take it to complete failure. There's no need for me to do so. I'm already getting enough out of it doing that. I don't hype myself up for the set. As you can see, also, it's the only set in which I haven't had any headphones on, so there's no arousal before I go into this set. It's straight up, I know what I need to do. I'm here to get one thing out of it, and that is get as much as I can injury free. Last but not least, this is something I've been doing. Great camera skills from me. This is something I've been doing as of late. And this is just to have a bit of fun. Very simply, just have a bit of fun. And I think something people forget to do quite often now is just have a bit of fun with training. And that is essentially a set of pull-ups or pronated pull-ups or chins, whatever you want to call them. I just do as many as I can before I don't want to do or can't do anymore. I just pull. So 3, 4, I don't know how many I end up doing. Something I've just been doing at the end of my session. It's a bit of fun. It gets a bit of blood moving into the lats. It gets a bit of blood into the biceps. And honestly, I feel like a 13-year-old kid again who's just gone to the park and seen the pull-up bar and just started pulling and pulling and pulling. So it's something I do at the end of my session. It's just for a bit of fun. It's not really, I'm not looking to add any size to muscles here. It's just, okay, what can I do? Fun, one out, all out set, do what you can. Boo, 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 boo. Bob's your uncle. So that's pretty much the full session there. If I'm not, do I do abs this day? I do abs this day, but I don't think I recorded it. I started my session with some mobility and ab work. And this is actually some post-workout posing that I thought I'd include because it's been a while since I've included some of this. Not too unhappy with how we're looking right now. This is like week 3 into the off season, or week 4 now. We've pushed food up. We've made 3 food adjustments since I stopped my mini cut, and my body weight has decreased. We made a food adjustment yesterday, and hopefully now we start to see it increase, because on average right now I'm about 91.1 kilos, whereas when I ended the mini cut I was 92. So my food's gone up substantially since then, and my body weight's come down, which is usually something I like to see in myself and my clients. So it's been pretty good to see it here. So yeah, just a bit of post-workout posing, nothing too crazy. Back was cramping up ever so slightly there, as you can see. So yeah, I'll leave you here with this clip. This is what I kind of do a few times a week. I do practice posing quite often. I do like to do a few rounds or 1 round after almost every session. Now, it just keeps me in the loop of staying on top of things. It keeps it easier. As I see my body change, it allows me to stay on top of it as well. And like, you got to remember, when you start growing, poses change a little bit, poses feel different, poses look different. And this is just a way of me staying on top of all those things, so when it is ready for me to step on stage again, I have a good understanding of how to hit certain shots, right? Because, like, for example, my front double bicep has changed since I've been enhanced. My rear double bicep has changed like 3 to 4 times now, with me not needing to adjust it so much to make up for the lack of back density. And it's just playing around with poses and having a bit of fun with it. I'm happy with how I'm looking right now. Body composition is obviously in a really good spot. I'm pretty lean for 91 kilos. Obviously the leanest I've ever been at 91 kilos. I would love to keep this body composition for as long as I can, but I do need to start to put a bit of fat on if I want to make the most out of this off season. But as always, never in a rush to push body fat up at all, or body weight up. We know where I need to be. We know that I don't respond very well when I push. So that's going to wrap this up here. Hopefully this works. I really hope it does. I'm not sure what's going to start this video or end this video. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. Right, so I'll try to keep these pretty brief and try to keep them as fast paced as I possibly can. So, number 1, what are your 3 biggest prep / bodybuilding lessons? Number 1, bodybuilding. Enjoy all of it. Try to find as much enjoyment in the off season as you do on a prep. Try to look forward to prep as much as you do. Training on prep as much as you do in the off season. Try to take the good parts of each and implement them to one another, and just be present. I know that sounds a super overused word at the moment, but like for me, I've always been someone who thought they would struggle. Well, I've always struggled a little bit more in the off season without like an end goal or like an immediate goal. But this off season, I've told myself to enjoy every single day a lot more and look forward to it. So that's number 1, just enjoy the process a bit more. Number 2, in a prep setting, probably just give yourself enough time to be stage ready. Make sure you're fucking lean. Try to get as lean as you possibly can without a detriment to your physique. If you're still pushing for conditioning and you're losing X, Y, and Z on your body parts, then you're probably pushing a bit too hard. And number 3, off the top of my head, try to not hyperfixate on food in the off season or in the prep. We as bodybuilders probably don't have the greatest relationship with food overall. It's probably better than a lot of people's, but it's still not the best. In prep, we get fixated because we're hungry, and food craving and food noise can creep in very easily. And in the off season, some people get to the extent where the thought of food makes them feel sick because they're so used to eating so much of it. So try to limit that in both ends of the spectrum. And one additional tip to that as well that I'll add on is, in the off season, put more time and effort into your meals. In prep, put less. Don't try to make your meals be extra tasty on prep because you're trying to like get rid of cravings. It just makes it worse. So the plainer the food on prep, the better. The nicer it is on the off season, the better for that. Number 2, who inspires you? And this is a really good question. I've touched upon this before. I don't find a lot of inspiration in bodybuilders themselves, only if I can relate to them on a personal level. I am a very deep thinker. I'm a very like heavy mentality / psychological / whatever you want to call it individual. I like to do a lot of what I call like dissecting of my own brain. I like to spend a lot of time on my own. I like to think about what I feel. I like to be in touch with my emotions. I like to embrace bad days. Like at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a phase of not feeling the best, and I'm okay with that because it allows me to dissect myself, sit with my thoughts, figure out what's going on, deal with it, accept it, move on. And then if a different part of my life this happens again, I have a better understanding of why it could be. Right now I'm just trying to figure that out, but it doesn't stop anything, because like yesterday I felt really bad. Today I don't feel as bad, so today's a better day already, right? And that's it. So who inspires me? I'll feel like I'll name a few off the top of my brain, and they're all going to be for different reasons. And I've touched upon this before. Like my father, I looked up to my father, you know, as I think all male or kids do. You look up to your father as a father figure, but just a man of, you know, my old man is just a very hard working individual that just doesn't let his emotions dictate what he does. And what I mean by that is, if he feels like shit, he goes to work. If he feels great, he goes to work. If he feels like shit, he goes to the gym. If he feels awesome, he goes to the gym, right? He just does. That's it. He just does. He executes. He's a man of great values, a great honor. Everyone respects him. If you met my old man, most people are like, I want your old man to be my old man. And my dad is someone I look at to, you know, as a reference in many aspects of my life. And one thing I've learned from my dad is I can't wait to be a dad. Very simply, you know, because the way he treats me and my brother, it got to like, I think it was like, I always make the joke out of this. I got to like 16 and my dad just went, I'm done being a dad now. I'm going to be your best friend and be your brother. You know, and he was strict when we were younger, but then he was like, do you know what? Like strict in a good way, by the way. Like he just made us a way that if you work really hard, you can achieve lots of things in your life, which he's continued to do so by showing us that now. But yeah, now he's just like that older brother / uncle / dad / fucking best friend / just dickhead, honestly. So yeah, my dad, my mum, and this is typical. If you know me, you know my parents are like my crutches and my best friends. They're everything to me. My mum, I think, again, we've been through a lot as a family, and she just keeps going and holds us all together, and that's where the love is, right? The love comes from your mum, so you learn a lot from those parents, and I'm blessed to have the ones I do. So my mum and my dad are obviously the biggest inspirations for me. I'm going to say my brother, but there's another question about my brother in here, which I'll answer a bit more in depth soon. But my brother, I've talked about this before, you can never look up to your brother enough, in my opinion, and you learn from it. I've learned from his errors massively, and I've learned from his successes massively. And you know, he's walked in shoes before me, and I've learned that those are not my shoes to walk in, but he's created paths and showed me paths that I was never aware of, and I'm forever thankful for him for that. And although yes, he achieved a lot in this bodybuilding realm, and I was always proud of him for what he'd done. What he's achieved now in life, I am fucking 100 times more proud of him than that. Again, my sister, fucking hell, I'm just naming my family. My sister, for many reasons, you know, again, I've touched upon this before. She just cracks on. She's been dealt the cards in life that are not the greatest, but she's made the most of it. She has a beautiful family, and I thank her for allowing me to be an uncle. I know that sounds weird, but I get to go and see kids and fucking pretend like I'm a kid again. And then when I get bored and tired, I get to go home. So thank you, Em. But yeah, those four. And then, you know, the other person I think a lot of people know that I look up to massively is just James Hollinshead for many reasons. If you've ever met James and you know James, you'd understand why. But to know him on more of a personal level, and to, you know, to see everything he does for us, as closer people towards him, no one will ever know how much he's done for all of us, and that's for us to keep and to save within us, and memories and honestly just like moments that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And just looking at him as a reference in the bodybuilding world of how he treats every single individual. You know, I have aspirations of going very far in this world, and I want to treat people like James treats people, but also realizing that, you know, I think this is where people get me misconstrued, is like, we're very nice people, we're selfless, we think about others, we care, we invest time, but don't cross us because I'll rip your fucking head off. That's the kind of mentality you need to have, right? Really nice, just don't piss me off. And I think James is a very similar individual to me in that aspect. And I think for lastly as well, I think most Welsh bodybuilders will, is just obviously Flex Lewis in that reference, right? Built everything, comes from where I'm from, and you think, fuck, if he can achieve it, so can I. And that's the goal. So they're the people I kind of look up to. I said I wouldn't keep this too long, and I've already rambled on for 8 minutes, but look, I like to talk. Is there anything in particular you look to focus on next year? Yes, my bodybuilding goals and my bodybuilding journey, plus coaching. They're the two main things. Coaching is taking priority over absolutely everything next year. I'm not 100% what I'm doing in terms of my own competing wise, but right now I'm living in the moment. I'm growing like a fucking weed. I'm enjoying bodybuilding more than I ever fucking have, honestly. And I want to carry on that. I don't want to think about a prep next year because I don't want to interrupt the momentum I have right now. And whether you like it or not, you put a subconscious goal at the end of a year or next year, and your mind can be drifting towards that sometimes. And I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. So coaching is the priority. I've got lots of people stepping on stage next year. It's going to be a big year for me personally in terms of coaching. The team is growing, and I'm really thankful for that. I'm really blessed to have the team I do, and I have more quality individuals than I do quantity, and that's something I want. I don't want loads and loads and loads of numbers, because I know how much I want and need to invest into every single person. So if I've got 100 clients, I don't have the means or will to be able to invest in them as I do my clients right now. So that's something that's going to be big for me next year, is the coaching. What is a supplement you swear by that maybe others think is a waste of money? I say glutamine. I know glutamine has been researched massively in terms of digestion, and there is some research that shows it only impacts those who have some kind of underlying conditions like an IBD or IBS. But put it this way, when I have glutamine, my digestion's better. When I don't have glutamine, my digestion's worse. That might be slightly placebo. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But for how much it costs, I like to have it in always. So I would say glutamine is my number one. I've got, how do you balance being a great coach and being a great athlete? First of all, thank you for both of those. It's hard. It's hard because sometimes I think I'm seen as an athlete before I am a coach, and I'm seen as a opposing coach before I am as a coach sometimes. So I think sometimes you can almost, I am slightly a victim of my own success, which again, it is what it is. But it is hard because I do invest emotionally a lot into my clients, into my coaching, and sometimes that ends up biting me in the ass when it comes down to my own progress, right? Like this year alone, I've talked about this before, I've been, my Saturday session that I was meant to do, like a pull session, I've done that in my gym over the last 4 months. I think I've done it twice in my gym because I've been on the road with clients, meeting new clients, doing shoots, doing all these things. So you have to take a bit of a back step, and whether you like it or not, you know, I'm one of these people that when I'm traveling, my training isn't as efficient, even if I nail every variable. The big variable is I'm not in my fucking comfort zone. I'm not in my own territory, right? So that alone is a big enough variable to throw me off. So you just manage as well as you can and know when to invest a bit more in each single thing, right? And like know when to switch off, and as I call it, putting the hat on, like knowing when to put your athlete hat on, knowing when to be your coach hat on. But one thing I've learned this year is I need to be a little bit more selfish to my own goals when it comes to being an athlete, because it's not easy being, you know, a high caliber athlete with high caliber goals, plus being a coach who has high aspirations, who's trying to build their brand and invest a lot in that as well. It's kind of trying to figure that out. Plus the coaching, the posing side of things, right? I am known for posing, and that has come with a lot of success this year, which I appreciate, but that is something that's taking a bit of a back step, and actually a big back step, because it takes away too much time and energy from my other two focuses, which are coaching and being a bodybuilder. What is one goal that you're currently chasing outside the gym? Fulfillment in who I am, and I think my goal is to continue to develop myself as a man, to be able to inspire other people, I'd say men in general, but other people to realize what they're capable of if they just not master their brains, but just try to take a bit more action over their own minds and understand what it is to make them tick. That is something I'm massive on, right? If I take each athlete, I see them as an individual, I try to figure out who they are, what they're like, personality type, what makes them tick, and then I try to not only do that to be the guy to get the most out of them, but show them what they need to do to get the most out of themselves. And that is something I'm trying to do on my own, in my own personal life, and then show to the world what it is that I've been doing and impact people on a bigger level as opposed to just individually, right? So that's a goal of mine. Do you consider a person who once used doping to be a natural athlete and now it's kind of clean? I mean, look, in my opinion, if you're there's so many ways of looking at this now. In my opinion, if you're natural, you're natural. You've never taken anything, right? A drug-free athlete that's the thing, right? Natural now can be considered as like 7 years, right? But in my opinion, drug-free is drug-free. Natural and drug-free to me mean the exact same thing. But with competitions accepting people being natural for 7 years and then claiming natural, then we have to take that into the consideration and into the conversation when we are talking about natural athletes. Look, let's not beat around the bush. If I train right now and if I train since I was 19 years old with assistance for 10 years and then I take 7 years off, after those 7 years, whether I'm not going to have the amount of tissue I did once, but I will hold on to a lot of it, because one, individually I hold on to tissue anyway, but two, I think people neglect how hard it is to actually lose muscle tissue overall, especially if you're trying to maintain as much of it as possible. So yeah, I do think it's a bit of a coin toss. But again, we've had people who have been assisted for fucking 3 months because they took the Dianabol when they were 16 on accident, or just being unwillingly knowing this stuff. And then theoretically they're not classed as enhanced, right? They're not classed as natural anymore. But what has 3 months of Dianabol really done to you? And I feel like there is an argument there to be had. But yeah, I don't really care too much anymore. When a client is going off plan more than when a client is going off plan more than staying on it, how do you try to get them to stay on it? I mean, just ask them how much their goals mean to them. If their goals mean enough to them to stay on plan, they will. If they are going off plan as much as they possibly are, or as much as they are, maybe their goals don't mean that much to them, and maybe the goal they have set, maybe it's like, okay, I want to win my pro card in 3 years' time. Maybe that goal is too far away that they can't envision it just yet. So maybe it's worth having a chat to them to set more realistic short-term goals, to allow them to have something more immediate to focus on. If not, the other thing is, especially if it's like a post show, for example, and you're in the moment and you think, I want this cookie, and then that cookie turns into 7, it's really easy for that to happen. By the way, it's not the end. It's not ideal, but in that moment of time, that want for that cookie, that is like an emotional response to something, right? You want it there and then for that that hit. But again, as I said before, bodybuilding is a game of delayed gratification. So if you could just hold off having that cookie right now, because if you don't have that cookie, though, it's going to turn into 7, then maybe in a week's time your baseline diet will go up, right? So that delayed gratification of invested in now to potentially have a better outcome in the future is worth doing. So I think just understanding who they are and what it is, and then maybe just making them a bit more accountable to yourself. If they're going off plan every 2 to 3 days, maybe have them check in every single day with you and just make sure they're okay. And end of the day report, have you ate all your meals, how are you doing, etc. Have them weigh in with you every single morning, because then then if they are going off plan or not. Just try to keep, you know, tabs on them a bit more and offer them the support that they potentially need. What left? Have you taken anything from your brother's life / journey / experience? Yes, quite a lot. I think on a bodybuilding level. Once you're at the top, people want to know you, and everyone wants to be your friend. But just because people seem to be your friend and want to be your friend, it doesn't mean they are your friend. They just have their best interests at heart. So that's something you need to take everyone's everyone's actions with a pinch of salt, and really figure out who it is there for you and who is there because of where you are. That's one thing. 2 is just being a bit more present in the whole journey of not chasing what's next. And every time you have a win, whether that is winning a show or even just being happy with how you look, embracing that, enjoying it, and not looking for the next win. 3, in the bodybuilding realm, is just take your time. That is something that he was pretty good at, is just taking his time, not rushing anything, and not pushing anything for the sake of it. Just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be there right now. You know, you're in it for the long run, right? So take your time with it. Outside of bodybuilding, so much. I look up to my brother more than people realize. So just how to be, you know, more communicative. Is that the word? Like, I was always a very shy individual. My brother's more outspoken. I've learned a lot from his journey and how he expresses himself, and stuff like that. So that is something I've learned from him. I've also learned, you know, how to not do certain things, learn from his mistakes. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for him, I've had the backseat and being able to see it all happening. So I go, okay, maybe don't do this, maybe don't do that. That has been a blessing of mine. What else? And I think the number one thing that I've learned from him is do things for you. And when the decision is there to be made, whatever that decision is, as long as you're doing it for you and you're doing it for like your own internal happiness, whether people, you know, whether everyone disagrees with it or not, as long as you're doing it for you and you know that you're doing it for you, it's the right decision. And if people then decide to leave you in the dirt and leave your side because they disagree with your decision, then so be it. It's for the better good, you know. So yeah, just making sure that everything I do is for me, and not always for other people's best interest. What else? I did just put another question box up right now to see if any last minute questions come in. I've got the typical, how do you handle burnout from the gym? Well, I think that's a good one, and something I'm pretty good at dealing with is just the fact that I know when to take a step back. It's one thing I've done a lot as a bodybuilder, is knowing when just to be like, I'm done, I'm burnt out a little bit, I can take time off the gym. It's something I do quite frequently, probably more frequently than most people, is taking time off the gym, because as soon as I burn out mentally, I don't enjoy bodybuilding anymore, and I can't afford to do that. Plus I do a lot of other stuff outside of bodybuilding. Bodybuilding isn't my own, like, it's my passion, it's my hobby, but I have other hobbies, like gaming is a hobby of mine, like going out and fucking going for good coffee is a hobby, watching stuff on YouTube is a hobby, whether that's bodybuilding or not, watching football, watching sports. So I feel like, because I'm not overly consumed by bodybuilding all the time, and don't get me wrong, some days I am, some days that's all I do is look at bodybuilding shit, but other days I don't. And the other thing is, when I'm taking time away from the gym, one thing I do try to do as well, take time away from bodybuilding in terms of like how much I consume it, because I do think you can overly consume too much of it. So I feel like it's important to know your limits, and not be like almost like let down by the fact that you need to take a step away from bodybuilding now and again, just to embrace it and enjoy it. And yeah, just being able to know that there's other things to enjoy, and then when you come back to bodybuilding, well, you know, it just feels that much better. Anything else? If you had to work with a coach that was not Tim, who would it be? And I saw this question the other day and actually had to think about it, and I don't really know. It would have to be someone, I think it'd be very different to Tim. I've only had, 3 coaches in my life, and they've all been different, and I think I'd need someone different to Tim. I think I'd need someone almost like on one of the highest pedestals in the world. I'd need like a Patrick Tor kind of thing, where I almost see him as like this fucking militant commander. And, you know, sometimes I do think to myself, fucking hell, it'd be kind of cool to work with someone like that. But I also know my personality, and I don't know if I would like get along with it. But, you know, I'd try it one day maybe. But no, I won't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna try it. But I think, I don't know, maybe, obviously I'm saying Patrick Tor, like Patrick Tor would work with me, but someone like that could be kind of cool. You know, that is just because of the outside looking in. Plus, if you didn't know, my brother actually worked with Patrick Tor for 3 months or 4 months, and I saw the process there, and it was intense. But then a part of me would be very like curious to see how I would function under it, because I am a very like regimented and routine based individual, where my brother wasn't so much. So maybe that would benefit me more. But also I'm a very relaxed and chilled individual, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, I'll get it done, don't worry. And that is one of my, I think, strengths. Whereas someone like Patrick, they like this, and I like to have like time off. I like to go for food. I like to enjoy myself. I like to get dressed up, stuff like that, and enjoy, you know, occasions where I'm pretty sure like someone like Patrick isn't the biggest fan of stuff like that either. So maybe it wouldn't work, maybe it would. If not, off the top of my head, I'd probably just give someone random a go. I know that sounds stupid, but I wouldn't work with like a big known coach. I think big known coaches now, honestly, I think they're all just a bunch of egotistical bastards, and I mean that with all due respect. And I get it, you know, you have to be. When you talk about big fish, everyone wants, you know, and we've seen it a lot with people leaving coaches now, and the coaches coming out and speaking about it, and, you know, like as if the coach is more important than the athlete, which is bullshit. You know, the athletes are everything. The coach is just the guy that tells you what to do, and the coach is important, but let's not forget that the athlete is the guy doing everything, and the athlete is the guy on stage, and the athlete is the guy winning. So I think I'd probably just like follow someone and maybe give someone that's not very well known a go, and just kind of gamble. It's what I done with Tim. Not saying he wasn't known, but he wasn't known to me. I gambled, I guess, and it paid off. And now look, he's one of the biggest coaches in the UK. So maybe I'd do that again with someone else. Maybe I'd give someone like maybe even younger than me, someone that I like someone that I not look up to, but maybe admire how they are, how they come across, and maybe they're like, you go, do you know what? If I let you coach me, maybe same thing happens to Tim. You coach me, you get a good result, and next thing you know, you've got 50 clients. You never know. You know, I think that's something that fuck, this sounds so egotistical of myself to say, but when you are a high caliber athlete as well, there's pressure on you to perform, but then you can also make someone's fucking life, you know, make someone's just day by going, yo, I want to work with you, and they go, shit, I get to work with a really high caliber athlete. Whether this gets me 20 more clients or not, it's kind of cool, you know. So I don't know, maybe I'd have to find it out. So maybe one day, just before I retire, I'll say to some fucking kid, yo, you've got one shot to coach me for one show, do your best. I'll give you a month, see what happens. But yeah, if not, maybe one of my clients, maybe I'd let one of my clients coach me, just to see if they've learned anything. If they learned anything when they're working with me. So I'm going to wrap that up there. I said I'm going to do 10-15 minutes. It turned into 25, but I feel like that is a nice way to end this video now. So as always, I appreciate everyone tuning in. If you got this far, maybe drop an emoji, maybe drop one of these, or just like just type emoji. And this is hopefully going to be up tomorrow. It's Monday right now, Monday the 27th. Hopefully this is up Tuesday. And yeah, if you are interested in any kind of coaching services of mine, or interested in having a chat with me about coaching, how I can help you, please, there's a link in the description. Get in touch with me. Let's have a chat. Get on the blower. Let me help you, or let me help you help me how I can help you, something like that. But if not, as always, please like, share, subscribe. It all does mean a lot, and let me know what you want to see. I know I am going to do another full day of eating. My food has been increased twice since the last full day of eating, so I am going to record another one soon, because I know people like to see that. But for now, we're going to leave that there. Peace out, everybody. #show the world.